like MMA gloves for your feet. And they're very, very thin on the padding. So those are also not allowed.
I mean, gloves, fingered gloves are not allowed.
Correct. Bag gloves, MMA gloves, individual finger gloves. Yes, sir.
You said box gloves are allowed, are leather feet allowed. The leather is tight, but no leather equipment. They make some footwear out there that will last you a lifetime. Leather, fishing, those will not be allowed. Leather is what you catch it.
Helmet's fine.
Other than dangerous. So they call them leather. It's kind of the mesh or the material, cloth material like those will be allowed. Seagear is a good example of that type of material.
But the sea gear is a good example of that type of material that we will be allowing. That it's the fingers are open, the fingers aren't open like the regular gloves we use, the Century and Macho type, but they do cover all the way in and protect the hands. But like I said, they look somewhat like boxing gloves, but they're not boxing gloves. The normal weight of the gloves we use are like 4 ounces. You start getting into the 8 and 10 ounce gloves, we can't allow those. We're not going to allow those. Okay. Any other questions? Any questions about any of the equipment? Like I said, that was the biggest change. I'm glad you remembered that. It's been a year since we had the tournament. We just changed that. But we've had a lot of schools voice their interest and concern on that, so we decided to go with it. And I'm not trying to be cold when I say this, but these rules, some of the rulings, such as one at a time, if we go to our tournament and we end up running short, we might go back to 2 at a time in the next tournament. As far as this is concerned, now I'm not trying to put words in the mouth, but this did come up. If this runs very efficiently, we thought about how we might be able to stay with the scheduled fight times and competing times, even when we are back in full mode. Just make it convenient for the parents and spectators. And once again, it'll be a little bit longer, but we want to make sure it's convenient for you guys too. So there are a lot of things we're thinking about, but this has allowed us, well, we're all martial artists. If you get hit a lot, you figure out how to stop it. So if we're not really, well, we are taking punches in a figurative sort of way right now, but if something is causing us to change and we have to adapt, we want to adapt in the most efficient manner, the most professional manner, the safest manner in which we can continue on.
Guards, those will not be allowed. Yes, sir.
In my rule book, the picture from the website, it still might behoove us to just take the equipment of what's authorized and non-authorized page from our website, laminate it, keep it in our boxes for each of the stations. That way people, because we did have some infractions last time where people looked like polyurethane feet covering, only to find out that the heel was totally exposed. So we had to stop and question and show it. So it's not good.
We do keep the rules. We try to keep a copy of the rules at every ring for the convenience, so we might do that also to save. It'll save the directors a lot of time of running back and forth, allowing the other equipment. Any other questions?
As a rule, if you're a ref, what do you call when a student uses knees and or elbows?
Foul. I apologize for this. We're still not used to this format. My apologies on this. If someone does throw a knee or an elbow, as per the rules, it is a foul. Now, repeated knees and elbows through a call of break might be unsportsmanlike conduct with the disqualification. But usually we don't have a whole lot of problem. We do have some schools come in to compete with us who their primary style is kickboxing. And they might throw a knee from time to time. Unintentionally, seriously, they get in close, punch, and he comes up, and it's a foul. And if it is intentional, then, like I said, it's still a foul, but they're warned. And remember, the warning is a very unique situation. It's in the rules. That's the warning. If they throw a knee, that's a foul. Where's the warning? In the rules. That's your warning. Do not throw knees. Right. So if that does happen, but if they continue it, then yes, the safety is that, as a matter of fact. But Master Kesselbaum was at the fringe of this, and I know Master herself. I've been the victim of some of her knees in sparring sometimes. A long time ago. Okay. But as some of the old timers, and it was all, this is not tournaments, well, some tournaments back in the day, but it was just all in good, not in good humor or fun, but just serious self-defense. If you're in close and somebody, you want to be able to protect yourself. So in class, it was very common for people to hold knees and elbows respectfully, and safely, just to train yourself as a martial artist. But we can't allow friendly situations like that because one mistake, we don't have that. So the knees and elbows are a direct foul, and it goes and it accumulates just like all the other fouls. Good question. Any others? The medical?
Yes. So the question was, or not even a question, but the topic was, what about students competitors that have medical issues that could prohibit them from wearing a mask? When you sign up for this event, you accept that the minimum standard for COVID protection is wearing a mask. So for starters, if you were one of those students that has a medical condition and you really cannot participate in athletic events without wearing one, then maybe this particular event is not the one. Now, that being said, we did have a question that said, are the players, especially in sparring, are the players allowed to essentially take a brief timeout, right? And not that we allow physical timeouts, but in a moment of distress or of breathing trouble, a player would be allowed to take a second or a few seconds to gather themselves before restarting the match. Obviously, we're not going to allow players to take minutes on end to get it done. At that point, you're probably having some more trouble than you really want at that point. But few seconds, any more than a couple of seconds, the center referee will call for stop time. We'll allow the player a few more seconds to gather themselves, and then after that, they should be allowed to continue. So I wouldn't say that we're allowing official timeouts, but as a referee, if you witness a player that is having trouble breathing or looks to be in some kind of distress, they're doubled over, they're pulling their mask away, that would definitely be an option to, hey, stop time, take a couple of deep breaths, right? If you have to take a knee, pull your mask down real fast to get some air, that's acceptable. I don't think that's putting anybody, competitors, staff members, in danger. In fact, it's helping the player not be in danger. So that's for their safety. Yes.
We have similar situations if somebody was winded by a kick or a punch, or if somebody did have an asthmatic attack, which is matches are very physical and excitable from time to time. So that's a good call.
We've had this happen here at the school where because here we spar with masks on, but we have some students that have asthma and they keep their inhaler on hand. So if there is something where the player does need to take a puff of their inhaler, I think that's hopefully that's something that they have with them ringside, that mom and dad doesn't have to scurry down from the bleachers to get. If you have a student that is competing that is going to compete, but they might have asthma problems, I would encourage them to keep their inhaler with them ringside with all their other equipment. That would be a good call on their part, just in case. Mr. Fisher?
Would it be appropriate to ask, like, you get all the kids together, so you have kids, and the budget depends on the parents to say, look, if you have enough, does anybody need one, or do you need to get it now? Because some people might say, oh, that's in the criminal law privacy, so I want everybody knowing, but on the other hand, they should have it, so.
Okay, great question. The question was, if we can gather up the students or the players, the competitors, at the beginning of the sparring, and just tell them if anybody has an inhaler or breathing issues, if you need to go get one from mom and dad, please do so now. That way they're not feeling singled out or anything like that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think as center referees, we're probably going to be having lots of those group talks with the competitors, because a lot of what we're doing we've never done before, and it's new territory for everybody. And the better informed the players are, then the better competition they're going to end up having, and the better experience everybody gets.
Each group is going to have, each hour will probably go through a set series of calls and warnings, or not warnings, but announcements. We might make that part of it as well. That way, take all the rings or all 3 rings at one time and let people know, and then a quick reminder by the center referee will help, and that way we'll less likely to miss anyone if they have to.
Find a number of breather breaks. Someone call before you say you are not medically conditioned to continue. And I've heard, as a head judge, I'm sorry, you're using it as a crutch now, you can't continue doing. Is there going to be a cutoff point where we call down, or we say you're DQ'd, you can't?
That's a very, very good point. As far as us deciding what, yes, I was going to, with us deciding whether or how many breaks is enough, I'm not a doctor to judge how many is appropriate. I would might recommend, sorry, Dr. Fisher, we may ask the doctor to observe and see if she can see what's going on and see if she might deem it appropriate. As martial artists, we've all had students, and some of us have been affected with asthma problems in the past, or breathing problems, whatever it may be. But that still doesn't give us the medical qualifications to be able to decide. So, is that something Dr. Fisher would be familiar? Are we comfortable with? Do you think? Oh, it definitely would be. Would she have a problem? We don't want to have to hold up a ring while she's taking care of another emergency, though. But do you think that'd be something she'd be comfortable with, maybe just watching a few seconds to see if she can be there for 15 or 20 seconds and the person hasn't had an instance, then they might be all right. Anyway. Okay, so we'll work on that. And that, once again, as Enough Stefan pointed out appropriately, we're kind of, flying without a net right now. And that's a very good question, because we're not doctors. We don't want anybody playing doctors. I still remember I was watching an old video back in the 60s and 70s, and they were pumping air into them and doing all the things that people used to do, the doctors. And that's not us. We're not medical practitioners. We're not going to pretend to be such. So in reference to any student competitors that might have asthmatic needs or something of that sort, whether it's an inhaler or time, we can put something that, Mr. McDonald, would it be possible to add that into the addendums on the news, on the website, to make sure that people the instructors know to inform their students the safety precautions, to have their inhalers next to the ring, if there's any problems. And I hesitate to say, let the center referee know if you might be having problems, because once again, I'd like to think we trust everybody we invite to the tournament. We don't want to think people would take advantage of it, but sometimes children don't take advantage of it. But we want to make sure that if it is necessary, it's truly necessary and safe. So we'll be taking the guidance of their instructors and Dr. Fisher and anyone else qualified to do so. But yes, we can put that on the site so all the instructors know to caution their students what to be prepared for. Good question again. Any other questions? Yes, Colin. Okay. Do y'all feel comfortable enough going back over a rehash of the staging and things of that sort? So what we're going to be doing this tournament is we're going to have the black belt start at 10 o'clock just like normal. But it's going to be a little interesting because, as we pointed out a few moments ago, the excitement and the intensity of black belt divisions, you can't hear yourself think sometimes. And it gets louder as the time goes on, so the more important calls toward the end, not that they're not all important, but as far as that's concerned, it's going to be kind of quiet because we're not going to have as many people in there watching the black belts. And as a competitor who used to see a few hundred people watching them compete, I'm going to miss that. Master Kesselman competed actually, and a few thousand people in the gym. That really helps you to compete a little bit better. We're not going to have that this time, but we'll have the black belts go first, and then depending upon how many black belts we have, odds are if the black belts start at 10, the first group of the lower belts will either be 11 o'clock or 11:30. I hesitate to start it at 15 or this or that. An hour would be nice starting at the top or the bottom of the hour. But 11 or 11:30, the lower belts will start, depending on how many black belts we have. And then the next group will be dependent upon how many we have in each age group and each belt rank. When I set up my tournament, I always try to have the same number of competitors in every ring that we have. That's a given. Now, give or take more, minus 3 or 4 or 5 at the very, very most. So if we can have 10 people in every ring, they should all run the same amount of time, which should finish in about 40 minutes. 1 or 2 rings, if one ring has more than 3 or 4 people, that will be kind of rare. If that's the case, we may move one fight of a particular division to another ring simply to expedite things. We will have individual brackets that we can have the divisions, and we can write down the divisions in. We can write down the competitors and make sure it's transferred to the master sheet for that each division, that we can get that taken care of. But if we all have the same number of people in each ring, the divisions will go through a little bit easier. If all things go according to plan, we'll have about 15 minutes, approximately, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes probably, to finish up one group, and then at the next hour, top or the bottom of the hour, whichever one it is, they will be gone, and the next group will come in, and then we'll start with the others. We'd like to have all the registrations in by Wednesday, Thursday at the absolute latest. Wednesday preferably. If all the forms are in by Wednesday, then we can have a good idea of the numbers. If we have to add 1 or 2, maybe even 3 people to a particular division, that's still doable. But if we have to add a dozen people to a particular 1 hour block, that's going to run into problems. So we like to have everything in by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, just as we always do really. But we'll be able to take care of that. And then as soon as we have that, we'll send the information to Mr. Master McDonald. He'll let everybody know on the website what time your group will be going, what block you will be on, whether it's 11:30 block, 12:30 block, 2 o'clock, whatever it may be. And as I said, if we have 30 people every hour, you can do the math. If we have 120 competitors, we'll have one at 11:30, 12:30, 1:30, 2:30. We'll be out of there by 3:30, 3 to 3:30 probably. So you can get it still an idea. Okay. Are there any questions regarding that? Now, I'm going to let Master Kesselman talk about the staging. He's put a lot more thought into that as far as that. So he'll talk about the staging outside. And the easiest thing, I'll be doing the brackets again this time. The easiest thing for me is just to make sure we have the count. And Master Peterson knows this. Of course, Ms. Johnson knows this. She's with me every tournament. But as long as we have the numbers, then we can work with that. We can know exactly how many people are going to be in a ring. And we've had tournaments. We've had a tournament before where every single ring, everyone from the first ring finished to the last ring finished was inside of 10 minutes. And but we have to do that. So we're going to do everything we can to try to get people in, give them a fair, enjoyable experience, yet expedite matters so we can make sure that we don't have a blockade or a jam, in between the matches. We want to make sure we can get this. And if we have 15 or 20 minutes, if we have 20 to 30 minutes between each block, we'll learn next time. We'll add a few more people to the group. I'd rather do that. We're going to err on the side of caution. We'd rather have a little bit longer than have 2 to 5 minutes between each group. I hate to say it. I'm sorry.
Billy, we are scheduled to compete for number 11 o'clock. So because the website said, please show up 15 to 20 minutes before your start time, we get there at 10:45. We pull in the parking lot, me and my family get out of the car. We will find a pop-up tent, a little awning tent, which will have a couple of black belts stationed there, and that will be the competitor check-in, right? And for this venue, the check-in is down at the parking lot, whereas the gym at Grace Prep is a little bit further off, right? So there will be a little bit of a walk from or the check-in tent to entrance to the gymnasium. So, Johnny, we walk up to the tent, say, Johnny's here, he's at 11 o'clock, he's an intermediate belt, and so we have all the paperwork at the table, we find Johnny's name, okay, great, Johnny's here. Right? We still have 7 more people in your division that need to check in. You are more than welcome. Hopefully it's a beautiful day outside. Grace Prep's got some nice football fields. You can go practice your form. You can warm up. You can stretch out, or you can hang out in the car. The black belts that are at the check-in table will have some walkie-talkies so that they can communicate with the directors that are inside, managing, watching how the rings are going and flowing on the inside. As the divisions start to finish up inside, we will radio to outside saying, okay, let's bring in the 10 and 11 intermediate belts, or bring in all the 10 and 11-year-olds. At that point, one of the staff members outside will let everybody know. They'll hold up a sign or something indicating time to move inside. So that hopefully will help keep a good steady flow of people outside and people inside, and everybody stays informed. I think that's going to be a key to this logistics, is people knowing where to go and when to be there. And as long as we have some good communication between inside and outside, that should go pretty smoothly. We had this question come up: what happens if Johnny has a brother and a sister who are both competing, who are of different ages, who compete later on in the day? Okay. The hope is that all 3 of those competitors would check in at the same time, right? So even though Susie's not scheduled to compete until 1 o'clock, she's there at 10:45, check in, right? But then don't go eat lunch. stay there. So competitors that are family members are allowed to be inside the gymnasium with their families. They are allowed to come and go as they wish. Obviously, they need to be back by their start time. But that is kind of how we're going to run the check-in, and what do we do when we pull in the parking lot? Because, like I said, things will look and feel a little bit different. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought here. I think that was it. Yes, sir.
So if, given that scenario, there's one that's competing, another one needs to be outside to be registered. He's already registered, but he has to wait for them to call his name before he comes back in, or does he just stay in the gym?
Good question. So Johnny's sibling is in the gym. Yes, yes. So the question was, does the sibling need to go back outside in order to come in with the division? If they have already been checked in, no. They are more than welcome to stay in the gym, and that way when their division starts, they're already there.
There'll be an announcement inside the gym as well.
Yes, yes. And we will be making announcements, and I'm sure that between Master Johnson, myself, and Master Self, we will all have a little, I don't want to call it a speech, but we will definitely have something to say as each age group comes in. So yes, the people that are in the gym would definitely be aware of what division is incoming. Yes.
Ideally, there will not be anything going on when the other groups are coming in. Ideally.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Mullins.
Our website, we have a mass texting feature in our website, so if I want to send an announcement, I can email everybody, or I can hit text. And everybody, you can send a broadcast text 15 minutes till this division reports. So everybody that's registered, get the cell phone, when they check in, is this the right cell phone? Because we're going to text. And then, with my laptop, my cell phone, I can sit here and just hit that group, launch out. Next group reporting in 15 minutes is the 7 to 8 year old.
If we could get somebody to input all the numbers.
You can do it, when you're checking them in, it's literally, it's just okay, John, yep, Johnny, what's your number? 904, blah, 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 boom.
We'll talk with one of our, we'll talk with a tech person. Okay.
Yeah. So the question was, would it be possible to notify the competitors that have been checked in, notify them via text message when it's their turn to come inside? And I think that, like you said, the technology is there. It would just be a matter of making sure we have everybody's active and current cell phone number so that they can receive that text message. I definitely think that would make things much easier. We wouldn't have to raise a flag or put up a sign and expect everybody to see it. They could just check their phone. Yeah. Yeah. Hey.
It takes out the, I didn't see it or I didn't hear you.
Sure. Yeah. Ring the bell.
Who has unread text right now?
Right.
Nobody.
No, that's a good point. Good point. Okay. Any other questions revolving the logistics or how to check in or how to report, Mr. Salter?
Last year, I think it was actually February, we set up a refreshment sales stand at your racing trip. That was a maddening experience because everybody only had a $20, $50 bill.
Yep.
So I don't know if we want to do that.
We will not be having any kind of refreshments or concessions. I can speak for Grace Prep in that they will not be offering anything. And then I would speak for us as well that the league will not have a concession table or anything like that. So hopefully, since the competitors are not going to be required to be there for that long, I don't want to say people aren't going to get hungry, because they will, but maybe they can bring a snack or something with them, since their time obligation there is not going to be that long. Yes, sir.
Can I make a comment to that? Because I did address that in an announcement of some sort, either email or Facebook. But there won't be concessions, as Master Kesselman just said. But I did encourage anybody that wanted to bring food or drink that they were welcome to do so, but they will have to eat that and drink that off site. Okay, not in the gym, not even in the foyer area, but outside, so that we don't have a gathering in any concentrated area for any reason. So I think I did make that announcement, but if you would please make sure that information gets out to your people, your schools, your students, that they're welcome to do that, all right? Because last year we didn't have concessions and everybody wanted something to drink or snack on, and we had to kind of improvise about that, okay? Can they bring a bottle of water inside the gym? I don't know what the policy is, but I don't see why they couldn't.
As long as they bring it with them when they're done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think normally the policy in every gym is no food or drink allowed in the gym, and that that really applies if you spill it. So no, I think that bringing in a water bottle or something like that should be no problem. Ma'am, you had a question? Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Usually at these tournaments, there is a refreshment for the black belts that are actually doing the work. Is that going to be provided by you, or we have to bring our own?
The question was, will refreshments be provided for the staff and for the scorekeepers and the black belt referees? Traditionally, we provide water for all of the referees and everybody. There has been talk about providing a small lunch, whether that's a sandwich or something of that sort. So I'll be honest, we have talked about that. So,
But honestly, when we did, I hadn't thought about congregating to have lunch. So we'll put that together and see if there's, and if we do work in sections, the people who do need a break can take a break and they can be covered. So we'll see what we can do. We do appreciate, trust me, everything you do, and we want to treat you right. We want to make sure that your sacrifice and time is taken care of, and we're going to do the best job we can. And we're not going to, we go to Grandmaster Parks tournament where we have full-fledged buffet lunches. Not quite that. But we do want to
You're also there for 14 hours, so.
but we do realize it may be an extra hour or two longer. We have talked about that and discussed. We'll be letting you know the details on that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Mr. Salter.
Well, understand the timing and what's designed. Is there any potential that competitors could be in ring 3 and the next group for ring 3 could be coming in preparation to start there? If so,
If you have, the question is, can we have the next group staging? As per all of our tournaments, the staging is really at the ring. At the most, I'm going to do my best to not have more than 15 in one division, probably 12 or 13 at the very most. And there shouldn't really be a necessity for staging or bringing the next group in, because if you have to bring the next group in, this group should be gone. And we will not start a group ahead of the scheduled time. If we're done, and for some strange odd reason we're done in 20 minutes, we sit around for 40 minutes. We're going to make sure nobody misses their time accordingly. As far as the staging areas, we decided to have 3 rings. Master Custom had a good idea of offsetting these. So this one ring up here in the corner, they have this whole area to stage. This one ring on the far side can stage all along the side. So hopefully we're not going to try to have 10 kids sitting elbow to elbow around the rings. They'll be able to sit back, move around. How many times do the kids end up sitting down the whole time and never get a chance to warm up? They'll understand what it's like for the black belts to have the whole gym pretty much to warm up with. So they'll be able to move around as long as the 5-year-olds don't wander off. We'll be able to keep them. So hopefully we won't necessarily, a staging area won't be necessary. We'll have everything open enough, and then when those 10 people are done, or when that group, I consider it a time block, when one ring of that block is done, they're free to go home or to go get in the bleachers and watch their siblings.
Mrs. Rainey. When you say health checks, we haven't talked about taking temperatures or anything like that. I don't know. I would initially say no. Obviously, if you were not feeling well, just like anything else, if you're not feeling well, stay home. One of the things that we are doing is we are going to be refunding anybody's entry fee if they feel that they cannot or should not show up to compete. So in the past, we've had a kind of a no refund policy. This changes everything, right? So in the event that somebody has pre-registered and it turns out that they have tested positive, or they don't feel well, or they just don't feel comfortable, they can by all means stay at home, and they will be refunded their entry fee. So hopefully that helps encourage people not to show up because they don't want to waste their entry fee. Yes.
It's so important right now for you guys as well as us, especially us, to make sure we get all the information to everybody that's concerned. So take all this information, and if you have a student body, you need to inform them everything that we can possibly give them so that there's no or very little confusion the day of the event. Now, with these COVID procedures that we're trying to what's the word I'm looking for? We're trying to do is see, I'm hiding behind this so that I can't be seen in the camera. There is a on the website there, and as well as a link on the website to guidelines for the COVID procedures. And if you haven't read those yet, you need to read them. I was going to pull it up and read it for you, but there's about 6 or 7 of these things that are pretty common sense, things that we've already talked about, and some maybe we haven't talked about. But make sure that your students and yourself read those guidelines and make sure they follow them, okay? so that we don't have any issues the day of the tournament, any conflicts or anything like that. Okay, we need to have it to run as smoothly as we possibly can. And while I have the mic, Masters Jackie Self and Mike Self over there, stand up. Y'all stand up so we know who you are. Most of y'all should know this couple over here of Ennis Black Belt Academy and Mike Self's Ennis High School Taekwondo Club. We just sat on a belt exam with them last night. Just some wonderful, well-skilled, very well-trained students over there from Ennis Black Belt Academy and the Ennis High School Taekwondo Club. Depending on how well this event goes for us and how smoothly we can make it go, and if we can get our numbers up to what they need to be, they will host the next event in Ennis, Texas, okay, hopefully in May, early part of May. So it's all contingent upon this particular event, though, okay, whether we even have any more. So the success of this event is really up to you guys to help us make sure it runs smoothly, make sure the information gets out to the student body, and bring the students to it, encourage them to come, and ensure them that it's going to be a safe and healthy competition for everybody to attend and get back to some sort of normalcy, okay? So re-welcome, because Jackie Self was one of the founders of the Texas Karate League when we regenerated from the traditional Karate League. So we welcome them back into the league as hosting an event. Give them a hand. Yay.
So, yeah, yes, Mr. Fisher.
Just going back to the check-in temperature thing, just as an option, while people are putting down phone numbers, there's going to be a little bit of a lag maybe going on. Somebody else at the same time, if they're going to say 2 people at the table, one person can do temperatures while the other person's doing that, so that kind of gives something else to be going on while the phone numbers are being done.
Sure.
I'm sorry. That's exactly what I was wanting to address about that. And thank you for reminding me why I even had the microphone. On those rules, those COVID rules. Oh, thank you.
You want me to read them?
Yeah, read those out, because those will state that we don't want them there in more softer terms than I'm saying. We don't want them there if they have any symptoms at all of any illness. Okay, whether it's COVID symptoms or any type of illness, that we encourage them not to participate. Okay, so we're leaving the responsibility to the player and the parents and the competitors to not show up if they feel sick. I just don't think it's realistic for us to be taking temperatures of everybody and go through that particular procedure. I don't think logistically that's going to be effective. I just don't think we should go that route. We just need to leave the responsibility to the player, to you guys, to make sure the information gets out there that they just don't need to show up. If they don't want to show up because of any of those illnesses, we will give them refunds. And even if they had a flat tire and couldn't make it, we'll give them a refund. If they aren't able to make it, we're going to give them a refund. Okay? On this event. So you want to
So I'll go ahead and continue. I think most, if not all of these, we've already talked about, but these are the COVID pandemic rules and guidelines. And when a competitor registers for the tournament, this is something that they will have to read and sign off on before their registration is completed. So competitors and accompanying spectators must not attend the tournament if they have any symptoms of COVID-19 or any contagious disease. Tournament competition entry fees will be refunded to those who cannot participate in the tournament for any illness reasons. Obviously, Mr. McDonald said if something happens and they don't show up for whatever reason, they will receive a refund. So all competitors must have their own personal sports equipment, water bottle, towel, hand sanitizer, or appropriate face covering. So basically, no sharing, right? which we've had lots of sharing in the past. Some things we encourage not to share, but it still happens. All persons while in and on the tournament venue premises must wear appropriate face covering, enclosing their nose and mouth at all times. We talked about some of the different types that are acceptable. Hand sanitizers will be available throughout the tournament site. Please sanitize your hands and all sparring equipment frequently. Competitors and accompanying spectators may not enter the tournament building until their division has been called. Appropriate divisional start times will be announced prior to the day. While at the tournament, all persons should maintain a social distance of at least 6 feet from persons who are not with your group. Minimize physical contact from one another when possible. Competitors will be separated from each other at socially safe distances while at their assigned rings. Their rings are 20 feet by 20 feet. If we're having a maximum of 10 competitors per ring, there's plenty of space. Competitors and accompanying spectators must leave the competition area once their divisions have finished, unless they have other family members who are still competing. Right? We talked about that. If you have other family members that compete at a later day, as long as they've checked in, they can stick around. And then lastly, concessions will not be available at the tournament site. You are encouraged to bring your own food and drink, but it must be consumed outside of the competition area. So all of those, I think, were all things that we covered. Yes, sir?
I noticed there's no statement about if you've been exposed within the 2 weeks of self-quarantine, and that's kind of standard. I don't consider such a statement.
Yeah.
So they're responsible, not us.
Sure. Put an exposure statement on there that if you feel that if you've been exposed within the last 10 to 14 days, that would also prohibit you from competing. Sure. I think that helps cover some more bases. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
You haven't addressed dressing rooms and or restrooms.
Good question. So the question is restrooms and dressing rooms. Are those still open and available? I will say specifically for Grace Prep, they do not have dressing rooms. They just have restrooms that obviously competitors use as a dressing room. I would encourage, obviously the restrooms will still be open. So I think the answer to that is okay. Good.
What we might put in on the door or the sign is maybe like limit 2 people, 3 people at a time in the restrooms, just like they do in a lot of facilities, limit the amount of people that can enter. Let's make a note that we probably should do that, make a professional sign for that.
Also encourage them to make sure they change at home.
Yeah.
But on the Kovid website, because of social distancing, please wear your uniform or report in uniform or something to that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, great questions. Any other questions, sir?
More kind of a clarifying question, and he may know more on this. On the taking the phone numbers, we found that with staff, you have to also enter their carrier information to be able to send your text. Do you have a program or something that can?
Yeah, there's several out there. I mean, depending on who's hosting the TKL website, there's probably a feature in it for your emailing groups. But there's Nibbles out there. There's a couple different ones. And it's literally you just plug in a list of phone numbers, type in your text message, and hit send, and it's broadcast.
I did look into some of that software that restaurants use for waiting. It's a matter of whether we can get online where we need to be at that facility. So we'll look into that.
We can talk, if anybody else has the wherewithal regarding electronics, we can talk afterwards. And I know Mr. Trog has some experience on this, and we can find a program. It'd be nice if we can find a system that they can put their own number in.
Yeah.
So I'm sure,
Yeah.
I tell people, I'm not smart enough to come up with an idea that computers can't do. So there's probably something out there we can use, but that's a good way. And as he's pointed out, a long time ago, when we go to national tournaments, they'll send text out. This is when your group's ready. This is when you're ready to go. And more convenient for everybody else to do.
Yes, sir.
My question is regarding to the uniform. I know that in the past, this is my first time as a black belt, but being a competitor, you have to have a white gi to compete, and the referees wear the black gis. Without having a dressing room, is there going to be a way to switch gis if that's the case that we're going to have to tell the difference between the competitors and the referees?
Yes, good question. So the question was, adult referees are required to wear black gis, but competitors have to wear white gis. So in the event that a referee is competing, where would they change? The restroom. Yeah, the restrooms at Grace Prep are big enough for somebody to change into quick wardrobe change. Yes, sir.
That is a good point. We may put some extra time in there just specifically for that. Good point.
Good questions. Good questions.
Can we address the Facebook crowd that just come? All you Facebook participants, please stick around. At the end, we're going to cover some of the things you may have missed at the beginning of our meeting. So also, please check in again through your comments so I know who is participating at the end of our seminar, and you'll get credit for being here. So check in and stick around, please.
Any other questions? We've covered just about everything, but I promise you we haven't covered everything. But I want to thank everybody for spending their time today to come on out. We went a little bit longer than what we would have liked, but it's a little bit of time now is going to save a lot of headache and a lot of, it'll be a little safer later on. I thought I hand coming up. Okay, no. But a little bit of work now will make it easier. And in answer to some of your questions, there are tournaments still going on. There are national tournaments going on. There are international tournaments going on. Jiu-jitsu tournaments going on. A friend of mine, I went to visit him just to say hi and see how he's doing, and they had about half a dozen students. They were rolling with masks on. So they're still doing it, active. And I honestly, I don't know if they're actually competing with masks on the jiu-jitsu tournaments. I'm not sure about that. But everybody's doing it. But one thing we can try, and our goal is to make sure that if it's done, we do it correctly. We're all going to make mistakes from here on out. As Mr. Kesselman's pointed out, it's a brand new world out there. The new normal is not normal. It's just new. And we're trying to make sure we can accommodate everyone to make sure that we accommodate the safety of our competitors first, the wonderful volunteer help that we do get from all of our black belts, and make sure the parents are happy and feel comfortable bringing their children and families to our events. Does anybody have anything that they might have felt we may have missed? And I believe we'll, if not trying to kick you out, but I think we'll probably finish up on this. Does anybody have any questions that we might not have covered that you might feel you want to cover? If you'd like to stay a little bit longer, feel free. I know, Master McDonald, we're going to cover some questions and answers with some of the Facebook crowd, the Facebook Live. But Master Customer and myself, both of us won't fit in the camera. So if you have any questions, we'll be able to speak with you individually.
Will there still be ring assignments and division assignments?
Will there be ring assignments? Yes, there are. We're going to try to do that. If you can only make it at a certain time, I'm not sure the individual, whether it's Master Hillhouse, Master Peterson, or Mr. Hill, I'm not sure which one of them will be running this particular ring, setting up the divisions. But when you confirm, if you can only make it for a certain amount of time, I wish I could give you an idea of whether we're going to start on the half hour. The idea about changing, we may go ahead and commit, especially if we have, well, I say 30 people per group, 10 per ring. If we have 30 black belts, that's going to be 15. That'll probably carry a little bit longer. And as it does, if we have 30 black belts, it usually takes about an hour and a half to run them. So if the black belts start at 10, and we have, say, 25 to 30 black belts, the lower belts will begin probably about 11:30. I wish I could tell you exactly when they're going to start and what age is going to do certain thing. Some of you black belts might have an opportunity to watch your children when you never could before. We're going to try to help everyone out. But, yes, put down and send back to the referees committee what times you would be available and what times you might not be available. If some of you have to take care of something at work or at home and have to leave and come back, this is going to give us that opportunity that we never would have had before. And as I said, it's only talking, but if this works out extraordinarily well and convenient for everyone, and it's not too much of an inconvenience, we may try this when we get back to normal. This may become normal, and in which case there's a good chance we'll know how many are in each ring, so we can have it pretty much written up maybe a month before, or this age starts at a certain time, and we'll be able to accommodate everyone a little bit easier later on. But that's stepping a few steps ahead right now. Well, without further ado, I want to thank everyone. I thank Master Kestamam as well for volunteering his school and parking lot. And I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know we have a few people. I know Mr. McGlade here is his son is coming to work out with us, and he decided to come up. He's an old timer. Sorry, I can say that now. An old timer from way back, and his student. I'm sorry, I forgot your name again. Joe Bostic. And so they've decided to come out and get back because they were both familiar with the 70s tournaments we had in the past. Some of us were, some of us weren't born then. But I want to give it a shot and see what the TKL is like, and hope we can accommodate them for their interest. And thank you all once again. Keep talking it up. Make sure your Facebook feeds and text mails and messages and everything else, let people know we're going to be up there, because a lot of people are excited about it. I got a call from Phil Weilman, Grandmaster Phil Weilman. He called up the other day, and he was talking about, said, when's the tournament? I want to know about it. And it's good to have some people who kind of bridge the gap from generation to generation. It'll be nice. And when I have time to tell you his resume as far as sparring is concerned, I might get a little excited about fighting a little harder when he comes to watch. But it'll be a good event, a fun event, safe event. That's what we're looking for. And we're excited. Can't wait to get started again. Thank you all very much. And before we leave, thank you to Mr. McDonald for setting this up and getting us everything else up, too.
I need y'all to continue. Okay.
Thank you very much. And we're going to continue the feed, and one of us might take a little time off to answer any kind of individual questions that may come up. But thank you once again. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks.
All right. We're going to cover the very first part of the meeting. Okay. Anything that we talked about COVID procedures, things like that. Okay. Talk into Stephen's camera.
As far as the COVID procedures that we're going to be implementing at our tournament, probably the most obvious is going to have to do with any sort of contact, trying to keep the distance between the competitors and each other and the officials. Our rulings state that if there's face contact called, the center referee must check for redness and swelling to see if anything else comes from this. Well, the center referee is not going to be able to come up and start manipulating the masks and moving it around, so it will be a requirement of the competitor themselves to remove the mask so the center referee can check to make sure there isn't any swelling, no bleeding, any of the safety precautions that we always check for. It will be up for the competitor to make sure they remove the mask and put it back on when they're done. We will stop time immediately. As soon as there's a face contact called, you'll stop time. You'll go over. You'll be able to check. But some of the children, if they have gloves, that they might not be able to remove the mask quickly and efficiently. There might be situations where the headgear or the face gear they have might not be able to get to the mask quickly. So we're going to stop as soon as the face contact is called by any official. We'll stop, check for the redness and swelling, possible bleeding, and then this competitor will put the mask back on. If there is a rare situation, hopefully it won't come to this, that a child may need assistance, we will have sanitation or sanitizing sprays or wipes, sanitary wipes, to make sure the center referees can take care of and help the children out, but we'll have those available. We're encouraging the center referees to go and wash their hands or sanitize their hands between matches, especially if they do have to deal with the student in close proximity. And that's as far as the safety, as far as the center referee, that's going to be one of the big issues that's going to come into it. One other aspect that came up that you might have caught it toward the end, but we're going to have staging times for all the competitors. And what I mean by staging times, the black belts will start at 10 o'clock just as they always have. And then after the black belts are done, we'll decide what time the lower belts will start dependent upon how many black belts we have. If there are 10 black belts, we'll be able to start the lower belts a little bit quicker. If we have anywhere from 25 to 30 black belts, as we have in the past, there's a good likelihood that the lower belts, even though the black belts start at 10, the lower belts won't be allowed to compete until 11:30. We're going to be calling them in about 15 minutes ahead of when their time is so they can come to the gym, get warmed up, get prepared for the competition. And if all goes well, during that 15 minutes of time before their divisions to begin, we'll have time to finish the previous division, whether it's the black belts or whether it's another group of competitors. We'll have time to finish them, take them off. They'll go back to the home, or they might go back up to the stands to watch their siblings and family compete. And then we'll start the next division as they come in. So we'll have a staging area outside. From the gym, if we can imagine, the gym is going to be up in one area. The parking lot goes down towards the football field and toward the parking lot. We'll have a tent set up where the competitors go and sign up. We'll have the competitor sheets up at the gym just as we're supposed to, but then we'll also have a list of the competitors down in the parking lot so that the competitors can go and check in. Just one more way of making sure that we have all the competitors and they know they're on the list, they know they're supposed to be competing, what ring they're going to be in, what time they're supposed to compete, but that'll be the staging area. When they're finished, we'll have communication between the tent and the gym, so when we're ready for the next group, about 15 minutes till, we'll call the next group to come in and they can start warming up and preparing for the competition. As I said before, our goal is to make sure that the previous group, the time block of those competitors will actually be done before we start bringing the next group in. If you come to sign up, you sign up at the tent, and then we'll call the next people to come in that order. If you have other siblings or family members that do have are competing at a different time frame, we're not going to ask you to sit out in the parking lot and wait for your children. If they're not supposed to compete, we're not going to have you do that. A family can go in, and if they're there at the 11 o'clock block to watch the 5 to 7-year-old son, when their teenager comes up to compete, they can still be there as long as they're practicing safe distancing. They won't be able to get on the floor to warm up or move around. We'll make sure we do our best to give everybody plenty of time to warm up, but they're not going to be able to get down on the floor. If they stay in the gym, they're going to stay with their own group, their own family group, practicing social distancing, and then we can call them up. So for the teenager, might be up watching his younger brother or sister compete. When his group comes up, he can go on the floor and start preparing for his competition. Master Madonna, is there anything else you might like me to cover regarding the different organizations or different organization of the tournament? Now, one of the things, we've mentioned this a few times, I want to make sure we don't miss any, that masks are mandatory. Masks that cover the face all the way through, whether it's the one that goes behind the ears or the surgical ties such as this, masks are mandatory. Yes, they can wear the protective face gear, either the cage, the hard, more solid protection, or the plexiglass, the hard plastic safety gear. They can wear any of those. Regardless of what else they wear, masks will still be mandatory. They have to have those. There's a possibility that some people might choose to wear the film that goes over the face. They can still wear those, but they still must wear the mask. Those are going to become mandatory.
Just address if someone has asthma or any medical issue, again, I think they may have heard it, but let's repeat it.
It's always good to double check to make sure everyone's communicating on this. But if we have students that have if there is a medical or physical need or situation where they are not allowed to wear the masks. We do apologize, but we have to make sure that we don't want to be vague in what our requirements are, but when you sign up for the tournament, you are signing up to wear a mask while you compete. If there is some situation that does not allow you to wear the mask, we apologize, but we will not be able to compete in this tournament. Perhaps you might be able to practice and build your conditioning up to wearing a mask while in class. You could even wear a mask during the kicks and punches, if you will. If your school doesn't do this, our school does, but you can wear your mask during the kicks and punches that will help build your conditioning to wearing the masks. If, for some reason, you have an asthmatic problem or some sort of situation that will not allow you to wear the mask or it makes it difficult, if you feel that you may need to have your inhaler with you, please bring it with your equipment so you'll have it next to the ring if some situation came where you'd have to use it during the match very quickly. If something happens, we're going to be very open to this starting out. We trust all our competitors. We don't feel anyone will take advantage of this. But if for some reason during the heat of the combat, the competition, you feel that you need to take the mask off or you feel you can't breathe for a moment, we'll allow a short reprieve just to make sure you can catch your breath, make sure it's safe, just as we would allow someone to recover if they took a body shot that may have taken their wind or they might have trouble breathing because of asthma. So we're leaving this on to the instructors to let their children, let their students know what the requirements are. We'll do our best, and as I said, we will have a doctor at the tournament that we've always had. Dr. Fisher is a wonderful doctor, a master black belt in her own right, and we trust her opinion, but we want to make sure that call's not up to us. Dr. Fisher will keep an eye on make sure everybody is safe and taken care of, but if you feel you'll need an inhaler, please bring it with you to make sure that will just expedite the time between the matches or between the breaks so it doesn't interfere with the flow of the tournament itself. Master Dolan, are there any other questions that you can think of?
You asked, can competitors wear a silicone plastic face cup that go under the cloth disposable?
We did talk. Some people are wearing the mask that go. Yes, some people are wearing a mask that goes over or under the shield, under their face mask that keeps the mask away from their face. You will be allowed to wear those. But since they are not really designed to be protective equipment at all, if it touches the face mask, even though it might be extended because of the mask, if it touches the protective equipment, the mask and the protective equipment, you will be, or should be not protective equipment, but the cup that will allow you to breathe a little easier. It'll keep the mask away from the face. If it touches that, that is considered a face contact, because it's not really it's not really a protective piece of equipment. So if they're wearing the covering that goes over the face that allows them to breathe a little easier, that is fine, but it is going to give you a disadvantage that it basically extends your target another couple inches forward that a person might be able to take advantage of. But if it is touched, that can be a disadvantage. Well, if it is touched, that is going to be a face contact. But as I said, if you throw a kick or punch, as the rules state, if you throw a kick or punch that allows you to stop within an inch, that means a punch this close might actually score a point because of the extension of the help you're breathing.
Any rules changes? Carol Kilgore asked, any rule changes?
The only rule change we have really isn't a change because we brought this up last year, but it was over a year that we had our tournament. The rules change we have, it has to do with the equipment. We are now allowing the sea gear type equipment. It doesn't have to be just the foam dip equipment. It can be they call it a leatherette type material. It is a cloth material that does not allow for the open fingers. It still has to have the closed fingers or the regular gear that with the fingers come through where the fingers are protected and the padding is over the fist. But we are allowing the sea gear type equipment. Now there's some material out there that look very much like boxing gloves, but they're encased. You slide your hands in just like boxing gloves, but they're not boxing gloves. Anything leather whether it's hand or foot gear, nothing leather will be allowed. So if you have a boxing glove that has kind of the cloth material over it, that will still not be allowed. The safety issue on that is the weight of the gloves. The heavier the glove, the harder the punch could be. So what we're going to do is that we're allowing the C-gear type, the leatherette type gloves. The fingers must still be enclosed. The individual fingers, like the Kempo gloves and things of that sort, will not be allowed. The karate gloves that are going to be in the Olympics next time, they cover the striking surface, but the fingers are free. Those will not be allowed. For the foot gear, the same thing goes with the material. But the foot gear, they do have to cover over the toes, and they have to completely cover the heel. Such as the heel kicks we do, we don't want someone with a bare heel throwing a heel kick to somebody's head. So the padding on the foot has to cover the toes, must go around the toe, and covering the heel as well. Headgear, if you have the boxing gloves that cover the chin, that would be fine, but the boxing gloves don't always cover the top of the head, or they might not cover certain particular other parts. Maybe it has a lace in the back that doesn't protect the back of the head. The headgear must protect the side, front, back, and the top. So those are the differences on the equipment as far as the sparring equipment. The shin guards, as always, shin guards are not mandatory. If you wear shin guards, they must be either the cloth, soft foam, or the foam dipped. No soccer-style shin guards, no Muay Thai shin guards. We have a lot of schools who are competing with us now who have a strong background in Muay Thai or full contact sparring in their school, and they spar with the Muay Thai gloves, understandably. Those will not be allowed in our tournaments. It must be a soft foam or the cloth foam or the soft dip foam for the shin guards. Well, this is as Master Kesselman pointed out, this is new to everybody, and we're doing our best to make sure that we can accommodate people who weren't able to make it today, and hopefully we have some students maybe from Austin or simply would like to be here, but just because of their careers, their life, they weren't able to make it. So I appreciate everyone taking their time out to get the information. We're very excited about getting back this new year, starting off everything fresh, and we just can't wait to get back out on the floor, and looking forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much.